Okay, a full 360-degree spin coming your way.
All right, as far as like getting you started on some 360s, and this also goes for the people at home. When you start on your threes, I really suggest doing them on the surface. So I'm gonna teach you just some of the fundamentals as far as what a 360 is all about. And it doesn't really necessarily mean for heel side or toe side. You know, generally we have people do heel side threes first just because it's easier to do a heel side wake jump. But what I suggest is doing these surface spins at first and then kind of figuring out which one you want to do, either heel side or toe side. I'm going to start you with heel side, and so I'm going to show you how to go about doing a surface three and then a traveling surface three and then inside out. And then you can do the same on your toe side. I'm not going to go through and show you everybody at home how to go through like the surface stuff on their toe side, but it's just all the same. So going to the heel side spins first. The board control's looking pretty awesome, so I think it's about time we do some 360s. Some people like to do wrap 360s. I'm gonna take you through handle past 360s, okay? So stick with me here. First thing I'm gonna do is give you the option, if you wanna either ride the roam, you can. It has no fins on the bottom, or we can just take the fins off your board. We're gonna have the boat down about 13 miles an hour, and you're gonna stay directly behind the boat. The 360 happens from a couple things. The first thing is by pulling the handle. That initiates your spin. The second thing is by where you look. That continues the spin. So the first thing you're gonna learn to do is actually pull on the handle correctly. What I want you to do is just stand there, give the handle a tug, and feel how long you can pull yourself towards the boat. If you just kind of stand there and give it a little yank, it's not gonna go that far. Or you're not gonna travel that far towards the boat and have that much slack because you're not letting the handle farther away from your hips. Check this out, if you kind of squat down, that gives a big distance between your hips and the handle and allows you to pull yourself closer to the boat. This is why a lot of people can do a 360, but they can't get the handle. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take you through some of these steps to kind of minimize the hard crashes and all the frustration of doing the threes. So surface threes, I know it might be a little frustrating for you, but this is really, really gonna help you get dialed in. In fact, my buddy Chuck the other day nailed his first attempt wake-to-wake 360 because he went through the proper steps of the boarding school. So stick with me here. The reason I'm gonna take you through these surface 360s is because I'm gonna teach you what it feels like, not only to make the handle pass, but what it looks like going around. Because I could skip all this and just have you go for it off the wake and take some hard falls and try to figure out as we go. But the more that you learn your way around this thing, when you actually get up into the air, you're gonna know where you're going and what it feels like to make this handle pass. So let's really take our time on these things. So the first thing, learning to let the handle away so you can pull yourself towards the boat. Do that a handful of times just to keep yourself under control. Try not to be sliding around too much when you're doing it. The second thing you're gonna do is you're gonna pull the handle past yourself, letting go with your front hand, let it yourself drift, 2 hands back on the handle. Do that a few times. The next step is gonna be pulling yourself towards the boat and tapping the handle with your front hand behind your back. So your front hand's gonna reach around behind your back and just tap the handle. That's gonna teach you what it feels like to take the handle, turn it out of the way of your front hip by turning your front hand over and tapping it behind your back and letting it go. Now it's time for the surface three. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pull the handle towards your back hip. At the same time, you take your chin and stick it to your front shoulder. What that does is that kind of makes you look in the direction you want to spin, because where you look, you're going to spin. So as you pull that handle to your back hip, chin to your front shoulder, grab the handle super early in the spin and keep the handle in tight as you finish the rotation. When you're spinning around, make sure that you're thinking about where you are the entire time so that you're always leaning against the rope. A lot of people get to about 270, that's 3/4 of the way around, and they fall and they hit their heel edge because they're not leaning away from the boat at all times. So make sure that you're in control, leaning with the board in a nice, easy slide all the way around. If you feel like you're leaning super hard and you can't get the handle, try to stand a little more upright. There is a fine line you're gonna be walking here from leaning too hard and not enough. So that's why just take your time with this thing. This is the foundation for your 360, so let's be patient on it. Let's continue doing these surface threes. Keep going around. As you finish, don't just grab the handle with your front hand and put your arm out straight. Otherwise, the slack's gonna pull out of the rope and yank your front arm pretty much out of its socket. You wanna keep this handle in nice and tight once you make that handle pass, so when that tension comes back, you can let it out nice and smooth. The surface threes that you're doing right now are actually looking pretty good. So now we're gonna do some traveling surface threes. That's where you're gonna start from one side of the wakes. You're gonna cut on a little tiny heel edge. And as you get to the middle, do your surface 360. We're gonna do this traveling 360 because as you go across the wakes, in between the wakes, it's gonna teach you a couple different things. One, what it feels like to travel across the wakes and spin, and also the timing. So you kind of want to think about doing it in the same place every time so that you know how to do it at a certain point. So now you've got those surface 360s that you're traveling across. Now we're going to do inside out. The boat's still staying around 13, 14 miles an hour, and you're going to do a 360 over the whitewash. This is kind of the first big step of doing your surface three. So let's be patient, make sure that you're keeping this thing in control. Nice, easy cut so that you can do the 360 while you're traveling over the whitewash, making sure that you're getting a good handle pull. Don't just throw your front hand off and try to reach around. Let's concentrate on pulling yourself towards the boat, looking over your shoulder, and finish outside the wakes. Just like your surface 180s, when you start doing this 360 from the inside out, getting a little bit of air, if you are doing it with correct body position, you can actually land this thing at 270 and finish the slide around. So don't just huck it and try to get around. I realize the first few tries it is gonna be that way, most likely, but really concentrate on some good, proper technique. When you're doing this inside out 360 and you're going to get just a little bit of air, I want you to think about leaving the water off the tail of the board and not so much off the edge. Otherwise, you're gonna slip out because you're spinning too early. When you're finishing this 360, when you're getting just a little bit of air, make sure that you're landing super soft with your knees dropping straight down. If you land hard on your legs and don't absorb, all that tension is gonna pull into the rope and it's gonna pull you off of your front foot and it's gonna bury the board. So if you feel like you keep going out the front, I want you to make sure that you're dropping with your butt straight in between your feet. That's gonna keep your weight centered over your board, nice soft landing. Your inside out ones are looking good. Now we're gonna go wake to wake. Now a little trick that I teach people when they do their wake to wake threes is, well, first thing you gotta make sure that you're doing a good wake to wake approach. Secondly, as you cut in, you can actually start to squat just a little bit, and that's going to get the handle away from you, just like when you're doing your surface threes, and that will allow you to get a good advance towards the boat. Advancing, like I said earlier, means just pulling yourself closer towards the boat. When you go about this is the same thing as your surface 360. It's just I want to make sure that that board is leaving off of the tail nice and clean, and then you can get into your spin. Do not go into an early spin and okay, I gotta get my 360 going, and you're gonna spin this thing early and not get any air. You gotta make sure you're getting a good jump and then do your three. From there, honestly, it's the same thing we've been doing. Pulling the handle, early handle pass, chin to the shoulder, see the landing, and soft on the landing. You're spinning the three really nicely, but that handle is just super far, and it's really hard for you to even think about getting the grab or to make that handle pass, right? Think about it this way. If you're standing straight behind the boat and you just let go with one hand, think about trying to reach around and grabbing that handle behind your back. It's gonna be super hard. That rope is trying to pull away from you, your body is kind of being left behind, and it's really hard to get that handle pass. That's why I have really stressed on pulling yourself towards the boat with two hands and then getting the handle. That's why you can stand straight back like we're doing the surface threes. You can pull yourself towards the boat, touch the handle, and let it go. So let's make sure that you're actually pulling with two hands, okay? It's not a pull with one hand, otherwise you're not really pulling. You're taking off the wake spinning and you're not advancing yourself towards the boat. So let's make sure you get two hands pulling yourself towards the boat. Did you feel on that last 360 how you're kind of going off axis? I doubt that you could, but what happens, the board was getting out from underneath you and you actually started to go into an off axis spin. That means that your body is tilted and the board was out from underneath you. The way to avoid that is by, once again, waiting to get into the air and then start your spin, okay? Make sure as you go up the wake, you're feeling the tail of the board leave, and don't leave off of the off of the edge while you're spinning. This just comes from spinning too early as you go up the wake. Make sure you get into the air and then start your rotation.
Toeside 360.
Okay, now as far as doing your toe side threes, you can do the surface stuff like I just explained to the people back home, like as far as doing the traveling surface threes and from on your toe side direction, and then doing inside out. And some things you're going to want to be thinking about is all the same techniques. It's just the difference on toe side is your body's going to want to continue rotating past that three. So you got to really practice it, stopping at the 360, and make sure that that board is pointed in the direction that you started cutting outside the wake. And that's as far as doing your inside out threes. Now that you're ready to go for the toe side wake to wake three, I want you to really make sure you're getting a nice toe side wake to wake approach and get a nice toe side wake to wake jump. Big mistake that people make is they start spinning super early, and so they don't get any pop, and then that doesn't allow any time, and so they don't finish the spin, and everything feels like it goes wrong. So make sure that you get a real good pop off the wake. Do that by keeping the handle pushed down and keep your back arm on the handle through the beginning part of the spin. That's going to do two things for you, keeping your backhand on the handle. One, that's going to give you good pop. Also, as you begin to start the 180, I want you to square up to the boat just for a second, and once you start to square up, pull with both hands, keeping that front hand on as long as you can till you feel about hit you in the waist, then reach around as quick as you can and make the handle pass. When you let go of the handle with that backhand that you're actually letting go of the handle, don't let your arm swing around, otherwise that's going to cause you to over-rotate that. So keep that arm under control, keep the handle in close on your entire spin through. And you can also take your chin, stick it to your front shoulder, and once again, that's gonna cause you to spin. If you square up to the boat and you try to spin, but your eyes stay locked forward, you're gonna get stuck halfway through this thing. So where you look is really gonna allow you to commit to the spin. So now you've made the handle pass, keep the handle in nice and tight, do your best to spot the landing. It's gonna be a little bit of a blind landing. And when you land, do as good of a job as you can on landing with soft knees. That's gonna also help you allow to keep that board going in the direction outside the wake. So keep the handle in tight, soft knees on the landing, and make sure you don't over-rotate that spin. Okay, so you wanna grab your 360. I'm gonna give you just a couple quick pointers on this, and for the people listening at home, we could go through every spin with every grab, but that would just be like 3 more discs that you guys have to watch at home. So I'm just gonna give you some of the key points to help you on when you wanna take your spin to the next level by adding a grab. So what you're gonna do is you're taking your heel side, front side 360, and we're gonna start by grabbing it, either what you call slob, or if you can even get it even a better grab, is gonna be what we call mute. That's gonna be your front hand in between your feet, somewhere on the toe side edge, okay? If it's in between your feet, we call that mute, but if you get up outside of your front foot, between the nose and your front foot, that's called slob. I don't know why, but that's what it is. So the key to doing this, you wanna really make sure that you're getting that pop off the wake with your 2 hands, and then reach down for the grab, and you're initiating it pretty much the same way you would go about doing your heel side 360. Mistake that people make a lot of times, they start their spin by letting their front hand off too soon, and they try to throw down their arm for the grab, and the board gets too far away from them, and it just doesn't work out because everything gets stretched out because they started to spin too soon. When you actually grab the board, your rotation stays a little bit tighter, just like a diver off of a diving board. The tighter you tuck, the faster you spin. So sometimes when people grab the board, it actually tightens up the rotation. So make sure that you're getting a good pop off the wake, bringing the board up as you initiate your 360. Keep that handle in tight. A lot of times people are thinking more about the grab and they let the handle out too far. So make sure you're keeping that handle in tight as you go around, and you can hang on to it as long as you feel comfortable. At first it's gonna be just a tap, but keep it in tight. Let go of the grab, go around for the handle, and there's your first grab 360. Some things that go wrong for people when they do their heel side 360s with a grab is a lot of times they will forget to just get good pop off the wake. So make sure you're getting a good heel side wake jump going first. That's one of the prerequisites to a 360 that you learned already. Some things that kind of just pertain to all grabs on spins are try not to bend over too much, just like when you learned your grabs. Try not to bend over too much for your grabs rather than bringing the board up so that everything stays similar to how you've already done it. Okay, working on the Heelside Backside 360. Something you want to think about is first take a nice, easy approach. If you get cutting too hard into the wake, the handle's going to want to pull away from you, and a good handle pull is really important on this trick, just like on any 360. Something that's really important on the backside 3 is standing tall as you get to the top of the wake. So you're going to take a nice, easy, progressive cut. Make sure you get a very good wake jump off the top. And as you get to the top of the wake, you're going to be pulling the handle towards the front of your back hip. As you pull the handle towards the front of your back hip, make sure you're doing that with 2 hands. A lot of people let go real early. They can make the spin around, but they can't get the handle pass. So make sure you're pulling with 2 hands. That gives you the maximum time to pull yourself towards the boat. And as you're pulling yourself with 2 hands towards your back, towards the front hip, you're gonna make sure that you're looking over your lead shoulder. If you notice, so I'm standing here at like 90 degrees, I can already see all the way around for the 3, and that's really gonna make you comfortable to bring the rest of the spin around. When you feel your back arm hit you in the waist, that's when you reach around quickly for the handle pass. Once you make that handle pass, really look in the direction that you want to spin and think about bringing your back hip up against the handle. Okay, if you're having trouble getting the full rotation, make sure that you're standing tall as you're pulling that handle to your hip. What you can do is you can almost even squat just a little bit on the way to the wake. That's going to increase the distance between your hips and the handle. And as you get to the top of the wake, then you can pull and stand up at the same time. That's going to advance you towards the boat, making the handle pass easier. Okay, that last attempt was good, but if you notice, you went pretty off axis. So when you landed, you're away on your toes. That means that you came off your edge way too early and started to spin, because how you land is how you took off. How you land is how you took off, right? So if you're landing on your toes, that means that you need to make sure you're leaving the wake on your heels so you land more on top of the board rather than out the toe edge. So wait longer before you start to spin.